Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really peeling back the layers on something every single business deals with, right? From, a side hustle right up to a huge multinational.
Mm-hmm.
Managing expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Whether you're trying to keep your household budget afloat or you're steering a massive company, what's the one thing that can, make or break your financial stability?
Yeah, it's not just about the money coming in.
Exactly. It's not just revenue. It's about really controlling your costs efficiently. And they're everywhere, sometimes hiding where you least expect them. Trying to get a handle on them can feel like, I don't know, herding cats sometimes.
Or hyperactive geese, as you put it earlier. Yeah.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this. You're tuned into Navigation of Business Model. This is our deep dive series where we try to break down these big, complex strategy ideas into sort of actionable atomic units.
Bite-sized pieces.
Exactly. We want this series to give you the tools, the fundamental bits, to really understand, maybe build, or even just tweak any business model. And today, episode 12, cost structure, managing your expenses.
Crucial topic.
Absolutely. Our mission for you today is to give you the insights to not just, see your costs, but to really get a grip on your cash flow, understand what drives it, and master your burn rate.
That's precisely right. And, it might sound a bit like homework, like an accounting thing, but understanding your cost structure, it's just fundamental for sticking around long term.
Right.
It's way more than just balancing the books. It's about strategy, how you compete, and, well, growing in a way you can actually sustain.
Totally agree. So we're going to dive into telling the difference between various cost types, look at some really interesting ways companies actually minimize them, some real-world examples here, and figure out what being lean really means for your bottom line.
Yeah, and sometimes the biggest savings aren't where you'd first think.
You might be surprised. Hashtag tag one, what's in a cost?
Yeah.
Defining the drivers and their impact. So when we talk cost structure, it's like way more subtle than just watching money leave the bank, isn't
Oh,
it?
definitely.
It's about seeing how every single dollar you spend hits your profitability. You know that old idea, more sales equals more profit.
The classic trap.
Right. Not always true if your costs are secretly just gobbling up all that revenue.
And what's really fascinating here, and something crucial for anyone leading a business, is how profit actually gets defined. Our sources really stress this. Customer lifetime value, CLV. It's not just based on revenue.
Okay.
It's explicitly based on profits. So that's the revenue minus the direct costs you can attribute to serving that customer.
That seems like a critical difference.
It is, because if you offer, say, really low prices or these super attractive deals just to get sales numbers up, you might actually be killing your profitability without realizing it if you ignore the real costs tied to that customer.
So you could literally be selling more but making less, or even losing money.
You absolutely could, selling yourself straight into trouble.
Wow. So if a business just fixates on that top-line revenue number without tracking those direct costs super carefully,
They could be losing money on every sale and not even know it until it's too late.
what's a common way you see this mistake play out? Like, where do businesses trip up on this?
A really frequent one is underestimating the true cost to serve. They might factor in the product cost, sure, but forget about, say, the customer support time or the cost of handling returns, or even the sales commission tied directly to that specific deal.
Ah, the hidden extras.
Exactly. They see the big revenue number, but they miss the profit erosion happening underneath. It's a classic blind spot.
Okay, speaking of things to watch out for, let's break down the main cost categories. First up, we've got fixed costs.
Right. The steady ones.
Yeah, these are the expenses that mostly stay the same no matter how much you're producing or selling. Think your monthly office rent, right? Or the salaries for your core admin team.
Doesn't matter if you sell one thing or 1,000, that rent check is the same size.
But here's a key point for entrepreneurs, maybe. Are fixed costs always truly fixed?
That's a great question. Strategically, maybe not. Like instead of that rigid 5-year lease, maybe a flexible co-working space is your fixed cost hack.
Good point. Less commitment.
Or with pay, even stock options,
Huh.
while they are a commitment. Maybe you structure them with performance goals. To conserve cash early on, our sources mention entrepreneurs dealing with renting space and paying people compensation and options grants, regardless of sales. It's a real commitment.
Feels heavy, I bet. Okay, then the flip side. Variable costs.
Yeah, these move around.
These are the ones that go up and down directly with how much you're doing. More activity, higher costs. Less activity, lower cost.
Like ingredients for a baker.
Or the example from the sources. A clockmaker. If they switch the clock housing from a $5 part to an $8 part, boom, Their variable cost per clock just went up by $3.
Instantly. And that hits their margin per unit, right? It changes their break-even point, everything.
Yeah, one source just calls it the constant marginal cost for providing the service.
Simple, but powerful. It's that bare minimum extra cost for just one more unit, one more customer. If you print t-shirts, it's the blank shirt, the ink.
Right.
If those costs go up, your profit shrinks immediately. It's like walking a tightrope constantly.
Definitely. And sometimes costs are a mix, right? Semi-variable costs.
The hybrid ones, yeah.
They've got a bit of fixed, a bit of variable, like your utility bill maybe,
Yeah.
a base charge that's fixed, plus extra based on how much power you actually use.
Exactly. Or some sales roles, maybe a base salary, which is fixed, but then commission on top, which is variable with sales.
So watch those. And then non-recurring costs.
A big one-offs.
Yeah, things like buying a huge piece of equipment or maybe the initial setup for a new factory line. Don't happen often, but they can be massive when they do.
But even here, there's strategy involved, isn't there?
Absolutely. Instead of buying that super expensive specialized machine outright, the sources suggest maybe you could modify technology to use more standard equipment that can be rented instead of bought.
Ah, clever. Renting versus owning.
Right. Cuts down that huge upfront cash outlay. Gives you flexibility. Really key for entrepreneurs trying to plug holes quickly when cash is super tight.
It's about being nimble with those big costs. Swapping capital expenditure for operational expenditure sometimes. More flex. And if we kind of zoom out, managing costs effectively, it often means rethinking your whole way of operating.
And not just snipping little bits here and there.
Exactly. It's about designing the business itself to be inherently efficient right from the start. That's where the really smart companies shine.
And some are just masters at this. Look at Ryanair, their whole model.
Oh, yeah. Ryanair's a prime example. They focus intensely on minimizing what our sources call holdup and slack.
Okay, what do those mean exactly? Hold up and slack.
So holdup is basically when you're dependent on someone else, giving them leverage that can jack up your costs. Think relying on a single supplier who knows you're stuck.
Got it. And slack.
Slack is just waste, really. Unproductive time, extra inventory sitting around, redundant steps, anything that adds cost but no value.
And Ryanair tackles both.
Aggressively. By doing things like avoiding unions or having high-powered incentives, keeping just one type of plane, that standardized fleet of 737s, and flying into secondary airports.
Okay, how does standardizing the fleet help?
Well, think about it. Fewer spare parts needed, maintenance training is simpler, planes get turned around faster at the gate, less downtime, less complexity. That's tackling slack.
And the secondary airports.
Lower landing fees, less congestion. That avoids holdup from busy, expensive primary airports. All these choices together create this culture of high productivity.
Which lets them offer those famously extremely low fares.
Precisely. It's just intentional operational design driving down costs.
Yeah.
Stripping away everything non-essential. A real masterclass.
That is powerful. Okay, another interesting one for managing costs strategically. 7-Eleven Japan and their IT.
Right. They managed to get a top-notch IT system without the massive cost and risk of building it all themselves.
How'd they do that?
Instead of hiring a huge internal IT army, they created partnerships with software and hardware suppliers for their point-of-sale systems, scanners, all that critical tech.
So they outsourced the development.
Essentially, yeah, or co-developed. It meant they got cutting-edge tech without the huge fixed cost of a massive internal IT department. Their IT staff back in the mid-90s. Only 50 people out of 2,500 employees total.
Wow, that's incredibly lean for a tech-reliant company.
It really is. Shows you can manage big infrastructure costs by smartly using external partners, turn a potential fixed cost monster into something more flexible.
Okay, moving beyond operations, let's talk customers. Another huge cost area, right? Specifically acquiring them. Acquisition cost.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where marketing and sales choices really, well, they hit home financially. The sources talk a lot about the impact of targetability.
Targetability, meaning how well you can reach the right customer.
Exactly. The cost of acquiring a customer can swing wildly based on how precisely you target. There's a great example in the sources with mailing catalogs. If you just blast them out randomly, maybe it costs you $50 for every customer you actually get. But use a really specific targeted list. Even if each catalog costs a bit more to print or mail, your cost per acquisition could plummet, maybe down to $17.50.
Because you're not wasting mailings on people who'd never buy.
Precisely. Better targeting, even if the per unit cost is higher, lowers your overall acquisition cost because your conversion rate is so much better. Quality over quantity and outreach.
Makes sense. And it's not just about getting them in the door, is it? Customer retention. That plays a role in costs too, even if it's not a direct expense line.
A huge role. While CLV itself isn't a cost, retaining customers has massive cost implications. The sources point out that even a small increase in retention rate can result in large increases in expected lifetime and CLV.
So keeping customers saves you money elsewhere.
Absolutely. One study estimated that just a 5% reduction in churn, meaning keeping 5% more of your customers each year, could boost their lifetime value by 35% to 95% in some industries.
Wow, that's a huge range.
It is, because every customer you keep is one you don't have to spend money acquiring all over again. It dramatically cuts down on that constant costly need for new acquisition. Your existing customers basically become a profit multiplier, a hidden cost saver.
That's a great way to think about it.
Okay.
Well, what about people costs
Right.
and infrastructure beyond just the operational bits, like talent acquisition?
Yeah, another big one. The sources make a really good point that bootstrappers, companies starting lean without big funding,
Right.
they often cannot afford those really high salaried, experienced executives right away. Unlike, say, investor-backed startups that might go out and hire a CFO for $100,000 a year on day one.
But isn't getting the best talent crucial?
It is, but here's the critical nuance the sources highlight. There's no such thing as a great executive. There is only a great executive for a specific company at a specific point in time.
Ah, so the $100 KCFO might be great later, but wrong for day one.
Exactly. Hiring someone too senior, too expensive, too early can be a major mistake. Not just the cost, but they might not fit the scrappy, chaotic early stage. Their skills might be for scaling, not starting.
So it's a strategic mismatch, burning cash unnecessarily.
Right. It advises against those costly premature hires that don't actually fit where the business is right now.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it ties into investment timing too, right? Like building big systems early on.
Definitely. Pouring money into, say, infrastructure needed for the long term, like knowledge management systems, often just doesn't make sense for really early stage companies.
Even though they'll need it eventually.
Yeah. The sources say startups often invest too late, meaning they react to problems as they arise. And counterintuitively, that's often more financially sensible than sinking loads of cash into systems they don't fully need yet.
Because that cash could be used elsewhere.
Precisely. It's that classic startup dilemma. Build for the future you hope to have, or conserve cash now and react when you absolutely must. For most, conserving cash is smarter early on.
Otherwise, you risk huge sunk costs, less flexibility.
And a dangerously high burn rate, without actually speeding things up where it matters most. It's all about when you commit to those big expenses, balancing the future with today's bank balance.
Okay, this is where it gets really, really interesting, I think. The lean approach. It's not just some, Silicon Valley buzzword.
Not at all. It's fundamental.
It's a really disciplined way of thinking about cash, about managing that burn rate strategically, finding ways to make every dollar stretch.
Often in ways you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
And prioritizing just staying alive, being sustainable, over maybe looking flashy.
Right. And the core idea seems to be hunting for those quick break-even cash-generating projects.
Relentlessly, yeah. Take Raju Patel's NAC, National Association of Communication. That example's great. He started with a pretty low-end auto dialer product.
Not the big vision.
Not his ultimate goal, no. But why did he start there? Because it could generate cash quickly and build credibility for his new company.
Ah, so the cash flow came first.
Exactly. That immediate cash let him offer decent benefits, compete with bigger firms for talent, and then pursue his more ambitious goals later. It's about building that financial momentum, that self-sustaining engine, right from the get-go.
And that connects really well to another idea from the sources.
Yeah.
That dominating a neglected market segment can be sometimes more profitable than intellectually stimulating or glamorous.
Yeah, finding your niche.
Right. It implies that focusing tightly, maybe on something overlooked, can be super cost-effective. Instead of trying to do everything for everyone, which just stretches your money thin.
You optimize everything, marketing, distribution, even the product for one specific group that's eager for what you have. Much less waste.
Makes sense. Now, what about hidden costs? Like things that aren't obvious line items. The sources mention inefficient price realization. What's that?
So price realization is basically the actual price you end up getting for your product or service after you account for all the discounts, deductions, maybe inefficiencies and how it gets sold. The Intuit Agronova example from India illustrates this perfectly. You had these middlemen Mandy agents dealing with farmers.
Right.
And they would consistently lowball the farmers on the price for their produce. Basically taking a hidden cut, it wasn't transparent at all.
So the farmer wasn't getting the true market value.
Exactly. And Agronova found that just giving farmers price information wasn't enough. They actually had to tell them which specific agent in the market would give them a fair price.
Wow, that's specific. So the real cost wasn't just fees, but that hidden price squeeze.
Precisely. Understanding and tackling those hidden costs, even ones imposed by others in your value chain, is critical for maximizing your own actual price, your realization, and ultimately your profit.
It's about seeing the whole system, not just your own books.
Exactly. Any inefficiency, any lack of transparency in pricing, it eats into someone's profit. For Agronova, helping farmers get a better price meant those farmers were more likely to use their service. It unlocked value by fixing a hidden cost leak in the system.
Fascinating. And then, of course, there's the cost of financing the business itself. That's a cost, too.
A big one. You absolutely have to ask. How much cash do we actually need to launch? How much working capital just to keep the lights on? And crucially, when do we need that cash?
These aren't just numbers for the accountant, are they?
Not at all. They're fundamental strategic questions. They dictate your whole funding strategy.
And what's the advice that raise money constantly?
Actually, the opposite. The sources strongly suggest entrepreneurs should try to raise 12 to 18 months worth of capital all at once.
Why that much?
Because constantly being in fundraising mode is incredibly time-consuming. It's a massive distraction. It pulls founders away from actually running the business.
The opportunity cost.
Huge. Think about a founder spending 30, 40, 50% of their time chasing investment instead of building the product or talking to customers. That's a massive hidden drag on the business.
Makes perfect sense. And it's not just VC money anymore, right? There are alternatives.
Increasingly, yes. Crowdfunding, for example, gets mentioned. An example like Dinar securing £60,000 for only 12% equity.
So potentially less dilution, maybe better terms?
Potentially. It shows there are different ways to manage the cost of capital itself, maybe keep more control compared to traditional routes.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, what's the big takeaway for listeners? Understanding your cost structure is clearly way more than just accounting, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's about strategy, deeply strategic choices.
It's optimizing how you operate, how you manage talent, even digging into your customer relationships and supply chains to find those hidden leaks.
Yeah.
So I'd really encourage you listening now to look again at your own business or even just your projects, big or small, through this lens. Where are your major costs? And maybe more importantly, where could you find efficiencies you haven't thought of?
Could be in supplier talks or when you make big investments.
Or even just how customers use your product, right?
Exactly. And this maybe leads to a final thought. Perhaps the most impactful cost you can manage isn't even on a spreadsheet. Okay.
Maybe it's an unspoken assumption, a belief about how things must be done. What hidden costs are you paying right now for stability or tradition or just what seems convenient?
Things you take for granted.
Right. Could tackling one of those assumptions be your next big leap toward more profit, a leaner, tougher business model?
That is definitely something to chew on. A really powerful thought. Okay, that's all the time we have for this deep dive into cost structure. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Be sure to tune in next time on Navigation of Business Model as we continue breaking down the core elements of building successful ventures.